The nightmare always came at the same hour. Maurice Langford jolted awake, her heart pounding against her ribs as the familiar images faded. Lily's blonde hair catching the sunlight, her father's weathered hands helping her into the camper, both of them waving goodbye. The red digits on her bedside clock glowed 4:45 a.m. She sat up in the darkness of her Ashland bedroom, pushing damp hair from her forehead. 7 years. 7 years since that camping trip, and still the dreams came with merciless regularity. Maurice wrapped her arms around her knees, trying to shake off the phantom sensation of her 9-year-old daughter's last hug. A sharp knock at her front door made her jump. At this hour? Another knock, more insistent, followed by a muffled voice calling her name. "Mrs. Langford? Maurice Langford." She grabbed her robe, wrapping it tightly around herself as she padded to the front door. Through the peephole, she saw 2 figures under her porch light, one in a dark suit, the other in a sheriff's uniform. Maurice's hands trembled as she undid the locks. Agent Jonah Kessler stood on her doorstep, his FBI badge already out. Beside him, Sheriff Andrea Brody shifted her weight, her expression grim in the pre-dawn darkness. "I'm sorry to wake you, Mrs. Langford," Agent Kessler said, his voice carrying the weight of someone delivering difficult news. "We've been trying to reach you." "My phone," Maurice glanced toward the kitchen. "I put it on silent. I'm sorry, what's happened?" The 2 officers exchanged glances. Sheriff Brody stepped forward. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us. We found your father's camper." The words didn't make sense. His camper? But where? "At Monticello Dam," Agent Kessler said. "In the Glory Hole Spillway." The what? Maurice's mind struggled to process the information. The Glory Hole Spillway was that massive circular drain she'd seen in photographs, a concrete funnel designed to handle overflow water. "I don't understand. How could a camper be in the—" "Someone dumped it there," Sheriff Brody interrupted gently. "We believe within the last few hours. Emergency services are working to extract it as we speak. We need you to come identify it." Maurice's legs felt weak. After 7 years of nothing, of dead ends and false leads, this sudden development seemed surreal. Did you find— "We should discuss this on the way," Agent Kessler said. "It's about a 2-hour and 40-minute drive. The extraction team hopes to have the camper out by the time we arrive." She dressed mechanically, her hands shaking as she grabbed her purse. As they pulled onto the empty highway, Agent Kessler turned from the passenger seat. "We received a call around 2 a.m. from a maintenance worker at the dam. He was checking water levels after last night's storm and spotted something metallic lodged in the spillway." "The storm," Maurice repeated. Last night's thunderstorm had been fierce. "But how could someone on that spillway must be 70 feet across? How do you dump a camper into it?" "That's what we're trying to figure out," Sheriff Brody said. "Whoever did this knew the area well. They also knew the storm would create heavy water flow. We think they expected the camper to be crushed and swept through to the outlet. But it got stuck," Maurice said. "Lucky for us," Agent Kessler nodded. As they approached Monticello Dam, Maurice saw the police barriers first. The normally busy Lake Berryessa recreation area had been cordoned off, and there it was. Maurice's breath caught. The aluminum camper sat on the roadside, water still dripping from its riveted surface. Even from a distance, she recognized the distinctive shape, the rounded edges her father had polished every spring. But 7 years had not been kind. Rust streaked the once gleaming surface, the windows clouded with grime. A man in a Cal Fire vest intercepted them. "Hell of a thing getting that out of there," he said. The thing was wedged at a 20-degree angle, like someone just backed it right up to the edge and let it roll in. Maurice stepped closer. She could see the small dent near the door handle where she'd backed into it with her bicycle when she was 12. The forensics team has already done a preliminary search, Agent Kessler said gently. Mrs. Langford, I need to tell you we didn't find any human remains inside. She nodded, unsure if she felt relief or disappointment. But we did recover several items. He led her to a folding table where evidence bags were laid out. Maurice's legs nearly gave out when she saw the red sweater. Even sealed in plastic, she recognized the purple embroidery on the sleeves, the one Lily had picked out herself. That's Lily's, she whispered. Agent Kessler held up another bag containing a water-damaged photograph. Her father and Lily standing in front of the camper, both grinning. Lily wore the same red sweater. Her father had his arm around her shoulders. Maurice's tears came then, hot and sudden. There's also this. Sheriff Brody showed her a digital camera in another evidence bag. Do you recognize it? No, Maurice said, wiping her eyes. My father didn't use digital cameras. He was proud of his old film cameras. Always said digital had no soul. And these? More bags. Fishing gear, moldy blankets. The fishing tackle is his. Those blankets, too. My mother crocheted that edge pattern. Agent Kessler's expression was carefully neutral. Mrs. Langford, I know we've discussed this possibility before, but with this evidence, we have to consider that your father, Thomas, may have been involved in your daughter's disappearance. He was 60 years old, Maurice said, her voice stronger now. He'd be 67 now if he's... How could he take care of a child alone? How could he hide for 7 years? We've seen cases of elderly individuals doing unexpected things, Agent Kessler said gently. News vans were pulling up beyond the police barrier. When the cameras rolled, Agent Kessler delivered a statement mentioning evidence discovered 2 days ago, a detail that surprised Maurice. When they pushed her forward, microphones thrust in her face. She tried to speak clearly despite her tears. Dad, if you're watching this, please come home. Bring Lily back to me. As they drove away, Maurice watched the tow truck secure her father's camper. That familiar aluminum shell that had carried so many happy memories. Now it was evidence, dragged from a spillway like some strange relic from the deep. The return journey to Ashland stretched endlessly. At the police station, Agent Kessler pulled out a thick manila folder. August 18, 2001, he began, pulling up the original missing persons report. You called 911 at 8:47 p.m. They were supposed to be back by dinner, Maurice remembered. Dad was never late when Lily was with him. Officers were dispatched to the campground, Sheriff Brody read from the report. They found the designated campsite empty, not just empty, meticulously cleaned. The fire pit cold and scrubbed, the ground swept clean. No personal belongings, no trace evidence. That level of cleaning suggests deliberate concealment, Agent Kessler said. And look at this. The same day at 2:15 p.m., your father entered First National Bank of Ashland and withdrew his entire savings, $400,000 in cash. The bank's security footage filled the screen. Her father at the teller window, Lily beside him holding his hand, looking around with typical 9-year-old curiosity. Nothing in her body language suggested fear. Lily wore the same red sweater they'd found in the camper. He took her to get ice cream after bank visits, she said quietly. It was their tradition. The conference room phone rang. Sheriff Brody answered, then handed it to Agent Kessler. Forensics? Yes, excellent. We'll be right down. He hung up. They've managed to access the memory card from the digital camera. In the basement tech lab, a young technician named Carlos greeted them. Water got into the camera body, but these SD cards are tough. I recovered 27 images. The photos appeared in a grid on the screen. Maurice leaned forward, her heart clenching. There was Lily, building sandcastles, roasting marshmallows, laughing on a tire swing. She looked happy, healthy, older than 9. Check the metadata, Carlos said. These were taken in 2005 and 2006, then nothing. She would have been 13 or 14. But this isn't my father's camera, Maurice insisted. The model was sold at several big box stores starting in 2004, Carlos said. Perhaps he bought it to document Lily growing up, Agent Kessler suggested. Maurice shook her head. Her father had been stubborn about technology. The idea felt wrong. Later in the patrol car on the way home, Sheriff Brody noticed her pallor. "Get some rest, Mrs. Langford. I know today brought more questions than answers, but this is still progress. After 7 years of nothing, we have something." Maurice managed a weak smile. Progress, she thought. But progress toward what truth? At her mailbox, Maurice's fingers found something different. A plain white envelope. No return address, no postmark, just her name written across the front in careful script. She carried it inside, her hands beginning to tremble as she recognized the handwriting. It was Lily's, or at least an older, more mature version of it. "Mom, I will see you again soon. Please listen to Grandpa. He is a kind person. He just wants what's best for me. If you don't listen to him, then we'll never meet again. Ella." A black cassette tape fell out, clattering onto the table. Ella? The name was a mystery. The threat felt alien, not from the sweet girl she knew. But what did she know about the Lily who had lived 7 years away from her? She had no cassette deck. Her father's house. She had to know what was on that tape. The 15-minute drive took her through Ashland's older residential districts. She let herself into her father's house, the air thick with the smell of dust and abandoned spaces. The calendar on the wall still showed August 2001. The cassette player sat on a shelf. She inserted the tape and pressed play. Static. Then a voice that stopped her heart. "Maurice, sweetheart, it's Dad." She sank onto the couch. It was him, unmistakably him. "I know you're confused and angry. I don't blame you, but I need you to listen carefully. Lily is safe with me. She's happy, healthy, getting a good education. I can't explain everything now, but I had my reasons, good reasons. For now, I need you to stop the police investigation. Tell them you want to move on. If you do this, we can reunite. I'll explain everything and we can start fresh, all three of us together again." There was a pause. She could hear his breathing, labored and heavy. "But Maurice, if you bring this tape to the police, I'll know. And if that happens, you'll never see us again. To prove you're willing to trust me, stay at my house tonight. Just tonight. If you can show that faith, we can take the next step." The tape clicked off. She played it again, then again. She rifled through his desk, finding a shoebox of his old recordings, folk songs, speeches, audio letters. She compared the voices obsessively. They were so similar. The new recording was heavier, more gravelly, but that could be age. She was starting to believe. As evening fell, she made dinner from canned goods in the pantry. By 9, exhaustion weighed on her like a physical force. She lay down in the guest room, fully clothed. Sleep, when it finally came, brought no peace, only dreams of empty campers and her daughter calling for help. The nightmare released her at 5 a.m. In the unfamiliar guest room, she looked at the letter again. The more she studied it, the more wrong it felt. It sounded like something dictated, not from Lily's heart. She found her father's old Sony Walkman in the bedside drawer. She put fresh batteries in, and it whirred to life. She slipped it into her purse with the letter and the tape. As she drove home through the pre-dawn stillness, she listened to the message one more time. Through the headphones, his voice felt more intimate. She could hear a faint echo suggesting a small room. And then, at the very end, after he said his last words, there was something else. A split second before the tape clicked off. Another voice, male, younger, saying what sounded like, "That's enough." Her eyes snapped open. Someone else had been there. Someone had stopped the tape. The implications raced through her mind. If someone was controlling her father, then everything changed. He would need help, partners, people who might not have Lily's best interests at heart. She scanned her street. A dark pickup truck she didn't recognize was parked next door. She asked her neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, who was watering her roses. That truck? Showed up around midnight. I think it's their nephew visiting from Portland. The truck's presence still nagged at her. The second voice on the tape changed everything. She couldn't handle this alone. She needed the FBI. Her father's words echoed. If you bring this tape to the police, I'll know. But how? Unless someone was watching her right now. She made her decision. She reversed out of the driveway and headed toward the police station. 3 blocks from her house, she noticed the dark pickup in her rearview mirror. It followed her, turn for turn. No doubt now. She pressed on the accelerator. The station was just ahead, but the truck surged forward, swerving and forcing her onto a narrow dirt road where it blocked her path. A woman stepped out in her 40s with dark hair pulled back in a severe ponytail. "Roll down your window," she said. Maurice saw a folding knife in her hand. "Get out of the car. Hands where I can see them." The woman's grip was iron hard as she zip-tied Maurice's wrists. She took her phone and wallet, then pushed her into the passenger seat of her own car. "You're going to call your FBI friend," she ordered, the knife visible on the console. "Tell him you're done with the investigation or your family won't see another day." Her bound hands made it awkward. She fumbled with the phone, her throat tight as she pressed call. "Agent Kessler," she said, forcing steadiness into her voice. "I'm calling to let you know. I'm pulling back from the investigation. Finding the camper gave me the closure I needed. I believe my father took Lily and he won't harm her." "Mrs. Langford," Kessler's voice was sharp with concern, "this is a criminal investigation. We can't simply—" "I know, but I won't push for it anymore." She felt the woman's eyes on her. "I should have mentioned, my father has a syndrome. After my mother died, he became fixated on caring for young children. Mrs. Langford, are you in some kind of trouble?" The woman snatched the phone, removed the battery, and flung both pieces out the window. They drove for hours, climbing into the remote mountains of the Coast Range. Finally, they reached a collection of derelict cottages. This was somewhere people went when they didn't want to be found. The woman pulled up to one with smoke drifting from its chimney. "Stay here," she ordered. She got out and approached another car parked in the overgrown driveway. A man stepped out, lean and weathered, his face angry. Their voices carried on the mountain air. "Colleen, what the hell have you done?" the man yelled. "Why did you bring her here?" "I was worried," Colleen's voice rose. "They found the camper." "It didn't get crushed like you planned." "You used the old man's recording?" "The one I kept for Plan B." The slap echoed across the clearing. "You did all this without consulting me? How stupid can you be?" "Roy, please, deal with her." He jabbed a finger toward Maurice. "Get rid of her. I'm taking the girl and leaving." Maurice's heart stopped. Lily was here, probably in Roy's car. Her hands were tied, but her feet were free. Moving carefully, she slid across the center console. The gear shift dug into her ribs, but she reached the pedals, her elbow knocking the car into reverse. Roy and Colleen's heads snapped up. Maurice stomped on the brake, cranked the wheel, and shifted into drive. She slammed her foot on the accelerator, aiming for the space between them. They dodged the wrong way. The impact was horrible. Both bodies flew backward. She hit the brake, her whole body shaking. They were alive, but hurt. She shouldered the door open and ran toward Roy's still idling car. Through the back window, she saw her. A teenage girl slumped in the back seat, apparently asleep. Lily. She burst into the cottage. A knife block sat on the counter. She knocked a butcher knife free, then dropped to her knees, sawing the zip tie against the blade until it snapped. She grabbed the knife and an old rotary phone, dialing 911. Through the window, she saw Roy pushing himself up, limping toward his car. "Help, please," she shouted into the receiver, hoping the dispatcher could hear. She ran back outside, kicking Roy hard in the back of his injured leg. He went down. "Give me your car keys," she said, the knife shaking in her bloody hand. Roy laughed, a bloody, unhinged sound. "You abandoned her. What kind of mother does that?" "It was tradition," she cried. He lunged. They struggled, Roy using his strength to turn the knife back toward her. A car engine grew louder. The distraction made Roy glance away. He reversed the knife's direction and drove it into Maurice's stomach. The pain was immediate, overwhelming. She hit the ground hard. Through a haze of shock, she watched Roy limp to his car. But Colleen, who had stumbled to her feet, reached for the passenger door. "Roy, wait!" He shoved her away. "You deal with your mess," he snarled. The sirens came first, then the flash of lights through the trees. Police cars materialized, blocking the road. She saw them pull Roy from the car, forcing him to the ground. The satisfying click of handcuffs. Colleen's voice was weak and bitter. "I hope you die just like your father." The words hit almost as hard as the knife. Thomas was dead. Maurice felt herself fading, but then something pressed against her wound. Her eyes fluttered open. Colleen had driven the blade further into her abdomen. Her voice cut through the haze, blaming Maurice for destroying everything. The distant wail of sirens grew louder, but all she could think about was Lily, still in that car, still just out of reach. The first thing Maurice became aware of was the beeping. Her eyelids fluttered open to harsh fluorescent lights. A hospital room. A nurse smiled when she saw Maurice's eyes tracking her. "Well, hello there. Welcome back." What happened?" "You're at Providence Medford Medical Center. 3 days in a coma, but you pulled through. You suffered severe blood loss and a punctured kidney from the stab wound. We had to remove the kidney, but you'll be fine." Agent Kessler appeared at her door. "I'm glad you're awake," he said, relief evident. "Roy and Colleen Barron are in custody, charged with kidnapping, murder, and attempted murder." Maurice's heart raced. "The girl in the car—" "We recovered Lily from Roy's vehicle," Kessler said gently. "She's 15 years old now. Your daughter is alive." Tears flooded Maurice's eyes. "How is she? Where is she?" "She's physically okay. CPS has her in temporary custody. She's been asking about you." While they waited for a call to be made, Maurice recounted everything. "That matches what we've learned," Kessler said grimly. "In August 2001, your father and Lily encountered Roy Barron at their campsite. He was hunting. Your father invited him to share their dinner. Roy took photos of them with his digital camera, the one we found. When he saw Lily, something broke in his mind. She looked almost exactly like his own daughter, who died in a boating accident 2 years prior. He tried to lure Lily away. When Thomas protected her, Roy pulled his rifle. He forced them into his truck, made your father withdraw his savings by threatening Lily, and then Thomas was killed that same year. Roy brought Lily home and told Colleen their daughter had returned. Shocked and grieving, she went along with it. They kept her for 7 years, telling her that her grandfather had sold her, that no one was looking for her. They disciplined her harshly. Over time, Lily learned to play the role of their dead daughter to survive. 2 days ago, they tried to dispose of some of Thomas's belongings, Kessler continued. A hiker found the items. When the news broke, they panicked. They decided to get rid of the camper. Roy drove it to the dam, but it got stuck. A soft knock interrupted them. A CPS worker entered, followed by a teenage girl. Lily. She had grown tall, her blonde hair reaching past her shoulders. She was thin with guarded eyes, but underneath Maurice could still see her daughter. "Mom?" Lily's voice was uncertain, hopeful. "Oh, baby." Maurice held out her arms. Lily rushed forward, careful of the IV lines, and fell into her mother's embrace. They held each other, both crying. "They killed Grandpa," Lily sobbed against Maurice's shoulder. "Right after he got the money, he tried to protect me. They made me think he sold me, but he didn't." "Shh, sweetheart," Maurice stroked her daughter's hair. "Grandpa loved you so much. He'll always be in our hearts." "We'll be searching the Baron's property," Agent Kessler said gently. "We'll find him, Mrs. Langford. We'll bring him home." Justice would come. Her father would be found. There would be trials, therapy, a long road of healing ahead. But right now, in this hospital room with her daughter warm and alive in her arms, Maurice felt something she hadn't experienced in 7 years. Hope. "We're together again," she whispered to Lily. "That's what matters. We'll go home. We'll make new memories. We'll be okay." Lily pulled back just enough to look at her mother's face. Despite everything, a small smile appeared. "I'd like that, Mom. I'd really like that." The sun slanted through the hospital window. Mother and daughter held each other. No longer lost. Finally found.